Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Today I'll tell you the first 5 things you should check when your car won't start without panicking. Most of the time, the problem isn't as serious as you think. You can fix it with just a simple check. Let's get started. Step 5. Checking the battery. If your car won't start, the first and most important thing you should check is the battery. This is because the battery is the power source that feeds the entire vehicle's electrical system, and when the battery is weak or completely dead, the car won't start. There are a few simple ways to tell. First, try turning on the car's headlights. If the headlights are very dim or don't come on at all, this indicates that the battery may be weak or completely dead. You can also try honking the horn. If the horn doesn't sound, you can also suspect the battery. However, the battery isn't always completely dead. Sometimes the terminals become loose or oxidized. This causes the electrical current to be interrupted and the car won't start. Open the hood and check the battery terminals. If there's oxidation, clean them with some sandpaper or a clean brush and reconnect them tightly. If the problem is caused by a completely discharged battery, the most practical solution is to jump start it. You can start your vehicle by using a jumper cable from another vehicle. Therefore, I strongly recommend keeping a quality jumper cable in your trunk. If you haven't used your vehicle for a long time, remember that your battery can weaken more quickly, especially in cold weather. Regularly checking your battery and charging it if necessary is the most important step to avoid being stranded. Step 4. Check the fuel level. When your vehicle won't start, one of the simplest yet most important factors overlooked is the fuel level. Many drivers may think their vehicle has another problem without realizing they're out of fuel. This is especially important if the gauge is faulty or the tank level is very low. If your vehicle starts but the engine doesn't, it may not be reaching the fuel pump. The first thing you should do is check your fuel gauge. However, remember, the gauge can sometimes be misleading on some vehicles. Therefore, to be sure, you can add a small amount of fuel to the tank and try again. Additionally, if your vehicle is parked on a steep slope and there's only a small amount of fuel in the tank, the pump may not be able to draw fuel. In this case, it's helpful to move your vehicle to level ground and try again. You should also hear a hum sound for a few seconds when you turn the ignition on to determine if the fuel pump is working. If you don't hear this sound, the problem may be with the pump. But the first step is always to check the fuel level. While it may seem simple, many drivers overlook this point. Addressing more complex issues without ensuring there's sufficient fuel in the tank often leads to wasted time. Therefore, if your vehicle won't start, be sure to check the fuel level first, then proceed to the next steps. Step 3. Starter motor and ignition response. It's very important to listen carefully to how your vehicle responds when you turn the ignition. This response provides clues to the location of the problem. If you hear only a single click when you turn the ignition, this usually indicates that the starter relay is working, but the engine isn't turning. This means there may be a problem with the starter motor. If you hear a constant, rapid click-click, this usually indicates a low battery. If there's no sound at all, meaning you don't hear any response when you turn the ignition, this could indicate loose or oxidized battery terminals. There could also be a problem with the ignition switch or the starter relay. The first simple check you can do here is to check the battery connections and ensure they are tight. If the battery is good and the connections are correct, but the engine still won't turn, the problem could be with the starter motor itself. If the starter motor is faulty, the vehicle won't start at all because it's blocking the engine. The initial movement to turn the car won't occur. In this case, a professional inspection may be necessary. In short, the vehicle's reactions when you turn the ignition provide valuable information about the source of the problem. Listen carefully and observe. This will prevent unnecessary parts replacements and waste time. Step 2. Fuses and the electrical system. Another important point to consider if your vehicle isn't starting is the fuses and electrical system. All electrical circuits in the vehicle are protected by fuses, and in the event of a short circuit or overcurrent, the fuse will blow, shutting off the circuit. This can cause your vehicle to not start or the fuel pump to malfunction. First, find your vehicle's fuse box. It's usually located under the dashboard, in the engine compartment, or on the side panels. Inside the fuse cover is a diagram showing which fuse is which. Especially check the fuses connected to the starter, fuel pump, and ignition system. If the wire inside the fuse is broken, it means the fuse is blown and needs to be replaced. The most important thing to remember here is to always install a fuse with the same amperage. Using a higher amperage fuse can compromise the system's protection and cause serious damage. If the fuse blows repeatedly, there may be a fault in the electrical system, and a professional inspection is essential. In short, checking the fuses if your vehicle isn't starting only takes a few minutes, but sometimes this can be the quickest and easiest solution to the problem. You can get your vehicle running again with a simple fuse replacement. Step 1. Spark plugs and ignition system. If your car starts but the engine won't start, the spark plugs and ignition system are the ones you need to focus on. For the engine to start, the fuel must be compressed and ignited with a spark. If this spark doesn't occur, the engine won't start, regardless of the amount of fuel. The first parts you should check are the spark plugs. Over time, spark plugs can become soot-laden, dirty, or wet, especially in engines with oil leaks. The spark plug tips become oily, preventing a spark. Similarly, with old spark plugs, the electrodes wear down, the spark becomes weak, and the vehicle may struggle to start or even fail to start at all. For a simple check, you can remove the spark plug and check its color. It should normally be a shade of brown. If it's black, oily, or wet, this indicates a malfunctioning spark plug. Ignition coils also play a crucial role in this. The coil converts the low voltage from the battery to high voltage and transmits it to the spark plugs. If the coil is faulty, there's no spark reaching the spark plugs and the engine won't start. In other words, if your car cranks but doesn't ignite, you may suspect a coil fault. In conclusion, regularly checking the spark plugs and ignition system and replacing them at regular mileage intervals is crucial for your vehicle's trouble-free operation. A minor oversight can lead to a breakdown. Therefore, the spark plugs and ignition system are the final, yet critical step to check when your car isn't starting. So friends, you can check these 5 steps in order without panicking when your car isn't starting. These steps will often help you identify the source of the problem. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like it and subscribe to be notified of new videos. See you in the next video. Drive safely.